Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Obeisance. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Tonight reciters are Vrinda Devi Mataji will be reciting in Sanskrit and Pooja Mataji will be reciting in English from Canto 3, Chapter 25, verses 1 to 15. So once Jyoti Mataji will share the screen, Vrinda Devi Mataji, can you
Hare
please
Krishna.
start? Hare
Yes.
Krishna Mataji. And with the invocation 3 times, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitiramine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, chapter entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Text 1. Shaunaka Uvacha Kapilastadva Sankhyata Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Jataha Swayam Aja Sakshat Atma Pragyaptaye Nrinam.
Hare Krishna. Sri Sonak said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapil Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race.
Text 2. Nahyasya Varshmanaha Pumsam Varimna Sarvayoginam Vishruto Shruta Devasya Bhuri Tripyanti Me Savaha.
Shonak continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses.
Text 3. Yatyadvidhate Bhagavan Swachandatmatma Tani me Shraddadhanasya Kirtanyanyanukirtaya.
Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency.
Text 4. Sutta Vacha Dvaipayana Sakhastvevam Maitreyo Bhagavamstatha Prahedam Viduram Prita Anvikshikyam Prachoditaha.
Sri Sutta Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows.
Text 5. Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Prasthite Ranyam Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sari Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila.
Maitreya said, when Kardam left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strands of the Bindu Sarovar to please his mother Devhuti.
Text 6. Tamasinam akarmanam tadvamargagradarshanam swasutam devahutyaha dhatu samsmarati vachaha.
When Kapila, who could show her the ultimate goal of the absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Devhuti remembered the words Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapila as follows.
Text 7. Devahutirvacha Nirvinna nitaram bhuman asadindriya darshanat yena sambhavyamanena prapannandham tamah prabho.
Devahuti said, I am very sick of the disturbance caused by my material senses. For because of this sense disturbance, my Lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance.
Text 8. Tasya tvam tamasondhasya dushparasya dyaparagam satchakshur janmanamante labdham me tadanugrahat.
Your Lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental eye, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births.
Text 9. Ya adyo bhagavan pumsam ishvaro vai bhavan kila lokasya tamasandhasya chakshuha suryaivoditaha.
You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe.
Text 10. Atha me deva sammoham apakrashtum tamarhasi yo vagrahoham me titi etasmin yujitastvaya.
Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion. Due to my feelings of false ego, I have been engaged by your Maya and have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations.
Text 11. Tam tvagataham sharanam sharanyam swabhritya samsarataro kutharam jigyasayaham prakrite purushasya namami saddharma vidam varishtham.
Dehuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter.
Text 12. Maitreya uvacha Iti swamatur niravadyamipsitam nishamya pumsamapavargavardhanam dhiyabhinadyatmavatam satam gatir babhasha ishat smitashobhitananaha.
Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization.
Text 13. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yoga Adhyatmika Pumsam Mato Nishreyasaya Me Atyanto Paratir Yatra Dhukasya Cha Sukhasya Cha.
The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system, which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system.
Text 14. Tam imam te pravakshyami yam avocham puranaghe rishinam shrotu kamanam yogam sarvanganipnaipunam.
O most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way.
Text 15. चेतः खल्वस्य बन्धाय मुक्तये चात्मनो मतं गुणेषु सक्तं बन्धाय रतं वा पुंसि मुक्तये.
The stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditioned life. But when the same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, Vrindadevi Mataji, Puja Mataji. Very nice recitation. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji's and Rohini's will accept my humble obeisances of Lord Srila Prabhupada. Lovely recitation by both the Matajis. Thank you so much. So we will do the prayers now. Dalali Mataji, can I start the prayers?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mamta Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यामनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादा सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्विताश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिं। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे। जय श्री कृष्ण। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। जय श्री कृष्ण। Thank you so much, everyone. Today we are going to read a new chapter. Started yesterday, Monday, I think, last week. So, sorry, I'm in Scotland. It's a bit cold here. So the chapter is glories of the devotional service. Just go to the chapter. Yeah, so the previous chapter was obviously about how Kapila Muni, Kandava Muni, how he leaves everything and goes. And now the renunciation of Kandava Muni, so he leaves his whole family life. Kapila Muni's son and wife, he leaves and then he goes on his pilgrimage for seeking liberation. In this chapter, now Kapila Muni, obviously his mother, Devavati, she realizes that she's wasted her life so much in all this material sense gratification and she wants to liberate herself. So she requests Kapila Muni, who is none other than an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and asks Kapila Muni to give her that knowledge so that she can be liberated. And here the conversation is happening, the conversation in a conversation. So here we have Sri Shaunaka Rishi. Obviously, he is requesting Maitreya Muni to tell us what he's heard in the Naimisharanya time. Sri Suta Goswami, whatever Suta Goswami has said. So he wants Maitreya Muni to let all the sages know about what they heard. So the story continues now. So over here we learn now, we know, all of us know that how Kapila Muni came to this, how Kapila Muni was why he was incarnated, because people were, the Sankhya philosophy was disappearing and people have forgotten. So Kapila Muni has come again to reinstate that in the, which was written in the scriptures, to reinstate that again amongst the people so that they follow. So what is Sankhya philosophy? We spoke that time. How to become conscious from your unconsciousness. So just knowing what your constitutional position is. So every time, everywhere in the Bhagavatam, we see that Lord Srila Prabhupada is always trying to explain that all of us are in this unconscious state and how we get out of this unconscious state and come to the conscious state. When we come to this, coming to the conscious state is being aware of what this consciousness is all about. So our constitutional position is that we are the eternal servant of the Lord. So from self-awareness, how do we become aware that it is who we are? That is the main thing of the philosophy. So how do we get to that? There are different means, and every time you see different chapters, some way or the other, it dies down to, it just boils down to the small thing of from unconsciousness to consciousness, or from ignorance to awareness. That is what we all need to know. So our verses today we got to read is from 3 to 6. So we will start from 3. The first two were about the conversation. So if somebody can read the verse for me and the translation and purport, please, I'll be really grateful.
Can I read, Mataji, please?
Please.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yad yad vidyate Bhagwan Swachanda Atma Atma Mayaya Tani me Shraddha Dhanasya Kirtayani Anukirtaya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency. Purport. The word Anukirtaya is very significant. Anukirtaya means to follow the description, not to create a concocted mental description, but to follow. Shaunaka Rishi requested Sutta Goswami to describe what he had actually heard from his spiritual master Sukadev Goswami about the transcendental pastimes the Lord manifested by his internal energy. Bhagwan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has no material body, but he can assume any kind of body by his spiritual will. That is made possible by his internal energy. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Read the other ones next.
Anybody else is reading, Mataji?
We can read two. We have 4 verses now. You can read 2 another 2. Somebody else can.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you. Sutta uvacha dvayapayana sakya tu evam Maitriyo Bhagvam Stata Prahedam Viduram Prita Anvikshishyam Prochodita. Translation. Shri Sutta Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. Purport. Questions and answers are very satisfactorily dealt with when the inquirer is bona fide and the speaker is also authorized. Here Maitreya is considered a powerful sage, and therefore he is also described as Bhagwan. This word can be used not only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but for anyone who is almost as powerful as the Supreme Lord. Maitreya is addressed as Bhagwan because he was spiritually far advanced. He was a personal friend of Dvaipana Vyasadeva, a literary incarnation of the Lord. Maitreya was very pleased with the inquiries of Vidura because they were the inquiries of a bona fide advanced devotee. Thus, Maitreya was encouraged to answer. When there are discourses on transcendental topics between devotees of equal mentality, the questions and answers are very fruitful and encouraging. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
So in this verse 3, my apologies of here, obviously it is Sukadeva from Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami is trying to answer. And then it again comes down to Maitreya. We had a conversation always between Maitreya and Vidura. So over here, the main point from this third verse is, let's go back to the third verse, Mataji, once, but then we can again, please, Mataji, thank you so much. Is that how the request is that even though please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency. So they always want to hear the activities and pastimes of the Godhead every time. It is very, very important, and they want to hear it, and they don't want a concocted version. This is what they want to say. And so it has to only come through disciplic succession. That's the main thing Srila Prabhupada wanted to implement over here. Anybody cannot just come and talk something and go. That cannot happen. So olden, now we have these books and all that. Olden times, we would only go to this oral reception, right? So all of them, Munis and all, were sitting over there. And then when Sukadeva Goswami was talking, then the people who are a little bit more intelligent were taking in all the information, obviously through Guru Parampara. Again, this was passing on to the next. So they're going through the Vedic scripture, they're listening to all what has been said, and then passing it on to the next generation. So over here, Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain this only in this very small purport that you cannot make up your stuff and tell. It has to be what is written in the scriptures and what you have heard from the spiritual master. You know that a spiritual grandfather is Srila Prabhupada. So whatever Srila Prabhupada read from the Bhagavatam, in a way, we are actually telling what Srila Prabhupada has written down here. And we all know that the Lord, he is obviously, he's a Purnam, he is totally complete in himself. So he doesn't need he always likes to fulfill his own, he's full of self, he has so many desires, the Lord himself, and he attains all of that by his own internal energy. So he enjoys that by his own internal energy. And nobody else can do that except the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and whom we see as Bhagavan. But in the next verse, when we see that Maitreya Muni is also given that post of Bhagavan because he was quite advanced spiritually. And when you're advanced spiritually, you can get some more qualities, so nearly equal. Obviously, you can never be equal to Bhagavan. But because you're above all other people, so they assume you to be. But actual Bhagavan is the Lord, all of us know. And Maitreya Muni was very close to Vyasadeva. So in this verse, it is just a small translation trying to say that how the question and answers, if you simulate an intelligent question, you get an intelligent answer. And it makes the person also more happy to answer your questions. If you ask an intelligent person a dull question, they get very bored. So over here, they're very happy that if you have a strong debate, and the debate is quite intelligent, satisfying, then it is quite encouraging and very fruitful. So over here, in the small purport, Sutta Goswami, Sri Sutta Goswami says, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased with Vidra's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. The Vidra is quite an intelligent person. You know that he is again a incarnation of the Lord of Justice, Dharma. So and that's where he is more advanced too. So and his questions will be more intelligent. So this is just as the second purport is just a simple explanation of that. So what are the main word they're trying to say over here is Bhagavan. Why is Maitreya Muni described as Bhagavan? And Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain that this Bhagavan is not only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People get confused every time. Who is Bhagavan? Who is not Bhagavan? But over here, Srila Prabhupada explains very clearly that because his Muni is very spiritually advanced, so he is addressed as Bhagavan, but he is not Bhagavan himself. And also he supports by saying that he is attached to, or he's the friend of Dvapayana Vasudeva. That means Vasudeva is Bhagavan himself, an incarnation of the Lord. And he is attached to association with the Lord, also elevates the position. And the other thing what they try to say is what sort of inquiries one person is asking. And by the type of inquiries you ask, then you can see how advanced the devotee is. And then always the transcendental topics are always it can be very, very fruitful, very, very heart-filling, and it's very interesting to listen to. Can we have the 5th verse, please, by somebody? And the 6th also, please, together we can do. Any volunteers?
I don't mind.
Please.
It's my Mataji.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mataji, please. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Maitreya uvacha pitari prashiste ranyam matu priya chikeshaya tasmin bindu sare vatset bhagavan kapila kila. Do you want me to read the signals?
Yes, Mataji, please. That and the purport too.
Maitreya Vacha, Maitreya said, Pitare, when the father, Prashistate, left Aranyam for the forest, Matuha, his mother, Priya Chikirsaya, with desire to please, Tasmin, on that, Bindu Sare, Lake Bindu Sarovar, Avatsit, he stayed, Bhagavan, the Lord Kapilaha, Kapila Kila, indeed. Translation. Maitreya said, when Kurdamama left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of the Bindu Sarovar to please his mother Devahuti. In the absence of the father, it is a duty of a grown son to take charge of his mother and serve her to the best of his ability, so that she will not feel separation from her husband. And it is a duty of a husband to leave home as soon as there is a grown son to take charge of his wife and family affairs. That is the Vedic system of household life. One should not remain continually implicated in household affairs up to the time of death. He must leave family affairs, and the wife may be taken charge by his grown son. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next verse, Mataji, please.
Okay. Asninam akarmanam tattvamargagradarshanam swasutam devahuti aha dhatu samsmarati vacha. Tam, to him, Kapila, asinam, seated, akarmanam, at leisure, tattva, of the absolute truth, marga, agra, the ultimate goal, darshanam, who could show. So sorry. Who could show Swasutam, her son, Devahuti, aha, said, Dhatu, O Brahma, samsmarati, remembering, vacha, the words. When Kapila, who could show her the ultimate goal of the absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Devahuti remembered the words of Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapila as follows. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. So this is again Maitreya Muni is trying to say. So as we said earlier, Kardama Muni went off. He left the forest, and then Lord Kapila had to stay back. He looked after his mother, and again, Srila Prabhupada is trying to say the role of everyone in a house. How if the elder of the family goes, then the son becomes automatically he holds on the position to lead the house, and he protects the women of the house. So over here, when Kapila Muni went away, when Kardama Muni went away, then Devahuti should not feel the separation, and so therefore she should be engaged in this devotional service. And then for that reason, obviously the son was trying to help her get over the separation and then engage into the devotional service. And also over here, Srila Prabhupada is trying to say how the hierarchy comes, from the father to the son, then to the son. And olden times, women obviously were more protected. So now the generation has changed quite a lot. And so we cannot be applying that now. For some houses, there are no sons, there are only daughters. So daughters do take up the position when there are no sons. But at least we're talking about olden times now here. So Srila Prabhupada also tries to tell that this system of the son takes over from the father is the Vedic system of household life. And also another important message in this of here is that all of us keep on continuing doing a materialistic work all the time to the end of our death. So Srila Prabhupada says that you should not do that. You should give them up earlier because all your time is spent on doing these materialistic activities. And you cannot do the transcendental one. The spiritual activities cannot be done because you're so much engaged in the material activities. So we should start, see how in our custom, what we say, oh, young children, they don't even engage them. They say, oh, he should not go for any of the spiritual activities now because he's too young. Or when he becomes Vanaprastha, that time he should go. But that is such a late time to go. All of us know. At least now in the Krishna consciousness families, we know that children are really engaging in Krishna consciousness at all, even from since the time of conception, basically. And that's quite nice what we are seeing. Some families were really lucky, and the children were really can have that exposure at a very young age. But olden times, and most of the people who are materialistically engaged, who are in the materialistic world, that is the last thing they'll always think of. So Srila Prabhupada is trying to remind that is not what it is. We should give up all these materialistic activities as early as possible. And also the family affairs and the wife, that is the thing, can be taken up by the son. So as we the sixth verse also is very, very short, and it says that Kapila Muni obviously is trying to show the Sankhya philosophy to his own mother, who wants to really very, very concentrately want to listen. And she remembers that Brahmadev has spoken to her. Yeah, and the words of Brahma, she remembers that your son is the one who will liberate you. And so she remembers that. And so her time now starts of getting all the education, all the knowledge, all the things required for her to get rid of her ignorance and to know the knowledge of the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how to go from this world peacefully. This whole chapter actually explains about how yeah, that's been unspoken. This whole chapter actually explains that this whole universe which we are living in is all temporary, and nothing is permanent of here. So we are the world which we live in, the material existence, what we have, the body, what we have, everything is temporary. The only thing which is permanent is your soul, is your Atma, which is fully covered with all these materialistic activities. To even know that your soul is permanent, which is part and parcel of the Godhead, to find that it takes so much of time for us to cleanse all this dust away from that. And that to get that awareness is what all of us are trying to work on. But unfortunately, we do not remember that. We keep on giving so much of importance to this body, which is the temporary thing, and not give importance to anything which is permanent. Sometimes we are so much engaged in this temporary thing that we forget anything that is permanent. So actually the next, I just wanted to say that what are the two things which make us get attached to this temporary world is your greed and desire. So moha and lobha. Lobha is your greed. So these are the two things which attach us to this material world. So we have to really know how to get over this greed and the desire. So when we have the same desire for Krishna, then it's different. Then it becomes transcendent. But when we have it for ourselves, then it is materialistic. So that's what we should remember, that everything we have is temporary or asat. And we said that last time also, from achit to chitta. That is what is Sankhya philosophy we need to And we have to use all our, whenever we start using our Indriya for the Lord, then it becomes transcendental. All your senses use it for the Lord, that's all good. But when you use it for yourself, then it becomes very materialistic. Because that's how we are, part and parcel. But we are like 99% material and 1% pure spiritual. Or 0.5% spiritual and 99.5% material. So we need to tilt the balance slowly and make it the other way around. So we have to increase our spiritual qualifications. We have to increase and reduce our materialistic qualification. And that will come by doing lots of devotional service and by your regular chanting. So we also have to, in this chapter also, Srila Prabhupada will try to explain that. Or you need a spiritual master who will help you crossing this ocean. Yeah? So it's very, very important that we have to listen to our spiritual masters, their lessons and what they say, and to serve them so that you could cross this river. This is very important to hear also, and not everybody gets a chance. That's what your Prabhupada says in the later verses, he says. So you have to engage our senses, and engage our senses in serving the spiritual master and in serving the Lord. Obviously, spiritual master will always guide us that we have to serve the Lord. So he will give the instructions for us, the spiritual master, will give the instructions for us to go in the right path. When we learn about, again also spiritual master, again also Srila Prabhupada will try to say that even Kapila Muni, even though he was himself an incarnation of the Lord, he does not concord. He also says, what I have done before, the same thing I'm going to tell. If he wants, he could have made new rules and regulations. But so that we all follow that parampara system and we all follow, he practice what you preach. That's what I would say. Is that so? Lord Kapila is also doing the same thing, even though he's part of Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not going by his own will and fancy. He's going by the scriptures too. And over here, we can see that even in Bhagavad Gita also, when the spiritual master is, so in a way, how Devahuti, her son, who is none other than Supreme Personality of Godhead, becomes her spiritual master. In a way, he's guiding her to attain liberation. So very important to know is that the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple is very, very important, because we are the conditioned soul, right? So we are the conditioned souls, and all of us are entangled in this material existence. So we can't get out of this entanglement and attain freedom. And that is what Srila Prabhupada tries to say in the other verses, that if you're fortunate enough to get the association of a spiritual master like Kapila Muni, or his representative, then by his grace one can be delivered from the mire of ignorance. Therefore, the spiritual master is therefore worshipped as one who delivers the disciple from the mire of ignorance with the light of torch of knowledge. Yeah. So Paragam is he one who can take the disciple to the other side. I'm just reading a future verse just so that ours is a very, very short. I'm just trying to say. So we have a conditional life from here, how we can go to the other side. So basically, these are the 4 verses we can say. And when we go on, we will see that it is again, it all boils down to Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, then the Karma Yoga, so your Ashtanga Yoga. that Bhakti Yoga at the topmost, and it is easier to do that than Karmakanda. But we have to materialistically, we have to do a lot for Karmakanda to achieve us, and you will not achieve us. The same also with your Ashtanga Yoga. So Srila Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of them have seen that our life is so short. Srila Prabhupada was saying, as time goes on, the age of the person even becomes much shorter. We don't even live for 100 years. We won't even live for 70 years. Even 30 years becomes a long life. So as time goes on, the lifespan of the human being actually goes down. So we won't even have any time to do anything. So as the soul goes on from one birth to another birth to another birth, so whatever we do will be saved. All the good qualities will be saved by the soul. So we should take a chance to redeem ourselves now rather than later. So this is all I would say, and obviously we can hear as we say, as we go on, we'll see how they will be going. And she will say, she's a reflection. She really reflects internally and says like, oh my God, I have actually fallen into this abyss of ignorance. She says, abyss is, what is an abyss? Is a big, big, deep. There was a movie called Abyss. It was very, very interesting when I was a child. I had seen that. It's a real depth over there, to a very, very deep well sort of a thing. It's deep space. We don't know where the bottom is. That is called the abyss. So the abyss of ignorance. So we are so ignorant and we have fallen into that. We don't know where the bottom of it is. We're so much into ignorance. We need to get out of this ignorance and then see if we can really get a little bit of enlightenment. This whole chapter goes on to say about how Kapila will try to explain one by one and the pastimes also of the Lord and what are the right things to do and about the Sankhya philosophy. I think I'll stop here today. It's been a very short 4 verses. We should bring about a discussion, I think. Today we still have time. Please forgive me for my mistakes. I hope we're able to answer some of the, at least, I just go straight from the verses to see what's the true translation. And if I've done any mistakes, please. Hare Krishna. We should have some discussion actually, please. Apologies. That is what they said in the chat also, we're supposed to discuss. It doesn't have to be this chapter, we can still discuss. Hare Krishna. So Devamati continues, she keeps on, obviously she realizes this isn't it. She wants the shelter. So our main aim is to be a grain of the sand, of the dust, under the lotus feet of the Lord. Even if that also, it will be the biggest thing for us. So we need to serve the lotus feet of the Lord. Hare Krishna. It's a very short session today. Actually, there'll be Kapila Muni's prayers, Devothi's prayers and Kapila Muni's. I think there's also the verses will all come from Mother when Devoti Mataji will be asking. There's a prayer also for that, her prayers. In the next chapter or something. It's so beautifully, when you read this whole chapter, you will see the relationship between the mother and son. It is so beautiful. The way how he addresses his mother and then tries to explain about this transcendental knowledge. As you read through it, it's really very, very nice. And good how we should read, It's absolutely wonderful. I remember as a child, actually, my mother was actually, she never read, she never had education, so she was like 5 years. She tried till 5th, but she never studied in English. So we used to have Amar Chitra Kathas at time. So basically, we used to have Amar Chitra Kathas, we used to have beautiful stories. And she was very interested in knowing what was the conversation going on in that. So she used to do all the work, and in the night we used to just sit and she used to wait for me to read the whole book out for her. It's very interesting to see like how the child can tell the same thing to the parent. It's something like, I'm not comparing, but it's reminding me of what the enthusiasm of the parent to listen. So it is the curiosity which makes the person. I don't know whether anybody has such interesting things or content about or any other things. Hare Krishna. If there are no please there, then are we going to close the session today, Mataji?
Yes, please, Mataji. Thank you. It was a very nice session. Thank you,
Very
Mataji.
short thing, only 4 verses. It was very, very short. But maybe I could have started off with a different story, and but it's the same thing, just continuing this maybe different, bit better. So, okay, we'll start the prayers. Is that okay? Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
कृपा सिंधु भवेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो नमो नमः।
Prabhuji Vaishnavrinda ki
जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Jai.
Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
जय।
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण।
Mataji, thank you, Mataji. Very nice class.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Very nice
Mataji.
class, Mataji. Thank you.